Welcome to the ULAT. The letters ULAT stand for the Universal Language Acquisition Tool. The ULAT is an online language learning website found at www.theulat.com. The ULAT is an unusual language learning tool in that it seeks to imitate the natural means by which you learned your native language as it teaches you a second. Here are three of the most important principles upon which the ULAT is based. First of all, the ULAT respects and imitates the natural language learning process. This means that you will learn to speak the language well before you ever try to write it. Depending on how your teacher uses the ULAT, you may not begin writing your new language until sometime in your second year of study. Once you become comfortable with speaking it, learning to read and then to write it will come much more easily. This is the ULAT's table of contents. Units 1 through 8 are exclusively oral in nature. Within them you'll find absolutely no written words with the exception of the very first lesson of Unit 1 in which some symbols of the ULAT are explained. Otherwise you'll hear sound files and you'll see images, video clips, and PowerPoint presentations. Unit 1 deals with the 60 most commonly used verbs in any language. Unit 2 is about your daily routine. Unit 3 is about personal description. Unit 4, domestic life. Unit 5, urban life. 6, nature. And 7, manual activities and technology. Unit 8 is an oral review of all 7 of the first 7 lessons. Units 9 and 10 review Units 1 through 7 in written fashion, thus introducing the written language. Unit 11 is a series of book and video studies, and Unit 12 enables you to write your own autobiography. Secondly, the meaning of words is conveyed without using translation. The ULAT will never present a translation of the meaning of a word or expression, and believes that the teacher should not do so either. Translation is the easy way out for an instructor, and it's the comfortable way for a student who does not like to live with a temporary sense of imprecision regarding the exact meaning of a word. But translation also deals a fatal blow to the student's long-term goal of attaining fluency. Translation creates a mental bridge, often more inexact than the student realizes, between the student's native language and the language being learned, a bridge which the student will have to cross every time that he or she needs to refer to that word in the new language. Passing all speech in the target language first through the grid of one's native language results in speech which is slow and awkward, and sometimes results even in embarrassing statements the student doesn't intend at all. That was my case when, as a 16-year-old student, I went to France as an exchange student for 10 weeks one summer. While there, I lived with a French family named Dupré in the north of France, and I stood a little over 6'5" at the time, but I was very, very thin, far more so than I am today, to say the least. And Madame Dupré felt that since I was so tall, and the French tend to be shorter than Americans, North Americans, and so I stuck out like a sore thumb, she felt she needed to stuff me with as much food as she could, so as to send me back to my parents looking good, looking healthy. Well, Sunday dinner in France is the longest and most extensive meal of the week. It's composed of numerous courses, and we got down to the end of one particular Sunday's meal. Madame Dupré is still trying to pass food off on me, and I'd come to the point where I could eat nothing more. And so I said to her, I wanted to say to her, "No thanks, I'm full." But the problem is I was taught to speak French in the 1960s when translation played a very heavy part in a student's instruction, as well as heavy emphasis upon the written word from the very first day. And a heavy emphasis upon written exercises early in one's instruction is very dangerous because the written language lends itself to translation very readily. So, in my usual manner, I thought to myself, "No thanks, I'm full." How can I say that? And I said, and by the way, this pronunciation is not how you pronounce French. This was an imitation of what I might have sounded like at the time. No thanks. No merci. I am. Je suis full. Oh, plein. Full. Like a bottle is full. Plein. Okay. No merci, Madame Dupré. Je suis plein. And at that point, the entire family started roaring with laughter. And it wasn't until they calmed down that I understood that I had told them that I was no longer hungry because, no thanks, I'm drunk. In fact, if I'd used that same expression and I were an animal, that would mean, no thanks, I'm pregnant. Whichever the case may be, that was clearly not what I was trying to communicate. But that's the kind of thing that happens when one makes, in translation, and especially written work along with translation, a heavy foundation to one's early language learning. Learning a language in the right way, that is, without any mental connection to your own native language, is the only way to attain genuine fluency, and to avoid merely speaking English using the words of another language. This means, however, that you must try to empty your mind of your own native language. Listen, observe, and repeat ULAT lessons with an open mind, being patient about knowing the exact meaning of a word until context clues make it clear. For example, the following video clip has as its purpose the teaching of the meaning of a new word. However, once you've seen it, you're not certain if it refers to the apartment building, the idea of to live, to point, or maybe even over there. However, the next time you see the image which corresponds to that word, you see it paired with a rural environment, a picture of an urban environment, a house, and an apartment, and therefore by the context you can conclude that it must have the meaning of the word to live. As in this example, the meaning of words will be conveyed to you in a visual fashion, in context, and accompanied by sound. Usually your teacher will rely on the thousands of images in the ULAT to show you what a word means. But sometimes he or she will act out its meaning for you, or draw you a picture, or define the word using other words which you already know. And thirdly, grammar will not be presented to you in an analytical fashion. This means that you will not learn grammar rules, nor see charts and grammar explanations as you learn your new language. Rather, the ULAT will help you develop what we call linguistic reflexes. Once the meaning of a certain type of sentence is presented and becomes clear, you will repeat it and others like it until you are comfortable with that structure. Then, using a gradually accelerating PowerPoint show, you will be required to make a statement at an ever-increasing rate of speed until you arrive at a point where your speech is a well-drilled reflex and is not dependent upon your ability to analyze the sentence's grammatical structure. When you are in class, it is your teacher who will direct you through the ULAT program, likely on a screen or a whiteboard in the front of the classroom. However, when you are on your own, either in your school's computer lab or on your computer at home, you will need to know how to navigate through the ULAT program. So, here's a tour of the website. Let's assume that you've been given the assignment by your teacher of studying lesson 2.19 on the present progressive tense. First of all, you'll enter into your browser theulat.com, and you'll come to this introductory screen. Of all the buttons located on the left-hand side, the only one you'll almost ever use is the one entitled the ULAT, though of course you're welcome to consider the information provided by following the other links. When you click on the ULAT, you'll be asked to provide the username and password that your teacher has already given you. This will take you to a screen where you choose the language which you're currently studying. We'll assume this is a Spanish class. That takes you to the table of contents, and in order to find lesson 2.19, you'll first go to the second unit that corresponds to the 2, and then you look for lesson 19, always clicking on the blue button located to the left of the pictures. When the lesson opens and you maximize your screen, you'll see along the left-hand side a number of navigational tools. The first of them takes you back to the home page on which we began. The second, by clicking on it, will take you to the table of contents indicating the different units of the ULAT. The third will take you to the table of contents for the lessons within the particular unit that you're studying. And the last will take you to a lexicon specific for that particular unit. For example, within this unit you'll be learning the interrogatives: who, how, what, where, when, how many, how much. By clicking on the image of the interrogatives, you'll see all the pictures corresponding to these words. By clicking on them, you'll be able to hear the words themselves, which leads us to an important point. Any picture containing a red border can be clicked upon and it serves as a link taking you to a sound file that will say that word. We'll go back now to lesson 2.19. And here you've seen an introduction to the meaning of the present progressive tense. Again, as you click on each of the pictures, you would hear a statement being made about the picture in the language that you're studying. You can always tell that a picture should be clicked on because it will have a red border telling you that it's linked to a sound file. At the end of the lesson, you'll find that there's a link taking you to the next lesson, if you so choose, or you can go back to the table of contents simply by clicking on the button indicating the different lessons of that particular unit. You are about to embark on an exciting adventure. Having spent nearly a quarter of my own life living overseas in the nation of France, I've experienced firsthand the value and satisfaction of being able to use a second or a third language. That knowledge allows you to know fascinating people whom you never would have known otherwise, and maybe to do some things you could never do in your own country. During my years in France, I had all kinds of unforgettable experiences, and more importantly, I was in a position to influence people and to be influenced by them in turn, because I could live among them, understand them, and know them. I sincerely hope that you'll know the richness of that kind of opportunity in your life, as the ULAT seeks to help you unlock the door to an entirely new segment of the world's population. Practice now navigating through the ULAT site, and then, when you feel comfortable finding your way around, you can begin with lesson 1.1, where you'll learn more about how to use the ULAT. Allez, nous sommes prêts. Bon courage. André, estamos listos. Buena suerte. Okay, we're ready to go. Move to lesson 1.1.